Hello again and welcome to another Korp Of Krieg tactics video. So before we get into today's video, I would like to say a huge thank you to Todd Olmsted for sending in some awesome pictures of his Korp Of Krieg forces. Absolutely fantastic. Todd, I really like the mixture of infantry and armour, and I like the grey colour scheme with a little bit of white sprinkled throughout. I think it really does tribute to that classic sort of Krieg look. So thank you for sending these pictures in. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want me to use in my videos, please post them on my Facebook page. There will be a link down in the description below. So without further ado, we're going to get on with the next part of our Krieg Tactics series video, and we are going to be doing a review of the heavy support options which are available to the Korp Of Krieg. So I'm going to go through all the heavy support options which are available to them. There are 19 of them. Now some of these are normal Imperial Guard available as well, so we won't be going into as much depth on those ones, but some of them are unique to Korp, or at the very least heavily associated with them. So without further ado, let's get on with today's video. So it won't be a surprise that the Krieg have a lot of heavy support choices, especially a lot of artillery choices. Okay, Krieg plus artillery equals win, and that is reflected very much in the amount of artillery choices they have available to them. Now they have a mixture of self-propelled artillery, aka the ones that can move, and you also have the static artillery pieces. Now, generally speaking, it's unfortunate, but generally speaking, the static artillery pieces are not as cost effective as the movable self-propelled ones. That is a shame, and that was a knee-jerk reaction by Forge World, because when 8th edition first came out, the static artillery pieces were really pointed quite effectively, and now not so much. That may change with the upcoming Forge World Codex, which has been talked about a lot. Don't know when that's dropping, but apparently Forge World's getting a Forge World armies are getting a total overhaul, which is good. It should mean that there's potentially some much needed points adjustments to the Korp Of Krieg stuff. We will have to see. That is not out yet as of the making of this video, so we will continue with what we have. So the first thing that the Korp Of Krieg have available to them as a Forge World unit, it is the Armageddon pattern medusa. Okay, now the Armageddon pattern medusa is essentially like it's a self-propelled artillery piece, so you can move it after you've deployed it. And the medusa in general is a bit of a slug thrower. So by that I mean it punches through things. Now the Armageddon pattern medusa is a self-propelled artillery piece, and it comes with the following profile. So it is movement when on full brackets 12 inches. That's goes down to 8 inches, then goes down to 4 inches, depending on how degraded it is. Ballistic skill is 4+, goes down to 5+, or 6+, depending on how degraded it is. And attacks 3 down to D3 down to 1, depending on how degraded. The stats that remain the same is it's a strength 6, toughness 7 vehicle with 12 wounds, so it's got a decent amount of wounds, same amount of wounds as a Leman Russ. A leadership 7, and it's got a 3+ save, so fairly standard artillery platform. A little tougher, toughness 7, and a little bit more durable with the wounds as well, with an additional wound on there. Now the main thing about the medusa is that it has a really big cannon on it, so but short ranged. So it's 36-inch range, heavy D6, strength 10, AP -3, D3 damage. This weapon can target units which are not visible to the bearer, so it's an indirect fire weapon. Now the thing about the medusa is that it only has a 36-inch range. That's the big thing. You get a big old wallop of a gun, strength 10, but it's only 36-inch range. So that is actually that's kind of unusual for an artillery piece, because that means that they're going to there's going to be times when this thing is going to be outranged. In fact, most of the time, like even against basic heavy weapons like las cannons, this thing's going to be outranged. So the points cost for this thing, when you buy it with its main gun and the heavy bolter that it comes with as standard, is 123. So it fortunately is quite cheap. It is 15 points more than a basilisk, and for those additional points, you basically get +1 toughness and +1 wound. So, and then the guns balance out, because whilst they're both 8-3, both do 2 damage, the medusa gets an extra strength, but the basilisk gets more reliable number of shots and a longer range. It's a tricky one. Okay, it is a tricky one. It is a good weapon, the medusa, but it is a tricky one. The thing to bear in mind is that it is kind of anti-meta at the moment, with all those assault centurions and centurions that are flying around the place, getting into your face. Against the typical Raven Guard centurion list, which even after the nerfs is still fairly relevant, you are looking, you know, the minimum range isn't going to be a problem, and the strength 10 is going to mean you're still going to win this things on 2s. Which is a good bonus to be aware of. But overall, it's a fairly, you know, the Medusa is a fairly standard artillery piece. Now, the next artillery they have available is a classic. It's the good old basilisk. This is the self-propelled version. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, guys, because the basilisk is a fairly well-known artillery piece in the Guard. Needless to say, it is... you know, it's only tough for 6. It's got 11 wounds, it's got a 3+ save, and its main gun has got a 240-inch range, heavy D6, strength 9, A+3, D3 damage. And when you're rolling the number of dice to determine how many shots this thing gets, roll 2 dice and discard the lowest. So the thing about the basilisk is it's got an incredibly reliable number of shots. Typically going to get between 4 and 5 shots a turn, but it is only hitting on 4s, so it will probably splat a couple of like marines a turn, essentially. Whether it gets its points back or not is interesting. You know, it's good. The basilisk is a reliable artillery piece, and it's kind of like the Leman battle cannon of artillery, which is it doesn't excel against any one particular target, but it's not weak against anything. You point the basilisk at whatever you want, and it's going to take a chunk out of it. And it's got the range to do that, unlike the Medusa, which could be potentially outranged. Comes with a heavy bolter, and the prize is 108 points. Now, the next one we have is the Colossus Bombard General. Now, this is also, you know, a fairly interesting artillery piece. I quite like this one, although it is pricey. So this thing, like the Medusa, is a Forge World option, and thanks to being Forge World, comes with some rather spicy additional stats. So it has the usual artillery stats, but it's toughness 8. So this thing is as tough as a Leman Russ, and comes with 12 wounds and a 3-up save. So this thing is as durable as a Russ. And it comes with the Colossus Siege Mortar, which has a 240-inch range, which is pretty good. Strength 6, so clearly an anti-infantry weapon. AP-2, very much looking like an anti-marine weapon. D3 damage, pretty much designed to kill Primaris at this point. This weapon can target not visible to the bearer. Units attacked by this weapon do not gain the bonus to their saving throws of being in cover. So that's really good. So what's the big thing about, you know, Marines is that when you stick them in cover, not the big thing, but one of the things about power armor is when you put it in cover, it becomes really difficult to dig it out. But the Colossus Bombard is like, I don't care that you're in cover, and I'm still going to be AP-2, so I'm putting all your Marine Primaris boys down onto a 5-up save, and I'm D3 damage, so in theory every shot that I get through is going to splat someone, and I'm heavy 2d6. Which is a huge advantage over all the other artillery pieces that we've seen so far. Because the Basilisk only, basilisk just fire a reliable number of shots, but it's still the maximum you can get is 6, and that's the same with the medusa as well. This thing's like heavy 2d6, thank you very much, please and thank you. So it's a good. The problem is that it's 158 points, so you are paying basically the same as a Leman Russ with a pair of sponsons for an artillery piece, which doesn't have that pair of sponsons, and is only strength 6, 8, -2. It's kind of like a super long range Leman Russ Eradicator. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for the unlimited range, essentially 240 inches. Now, we're now going to move. So all those 3 that we've seen so far, they're pretty good for Krieg lists that are looking to make heavy use of artillery. Okay, you can't go wrong with a couple of basilisks, or you can't go wrong with taking one of each of those. Really, they all have a home in a Krieg list. Nothing that we've looked at so far. If you turn up to the battlefield, would your opponent go, "Oh my god, this guy's a total noob"? No. All of those are pretty valid choices for your typical Krieg list. Big guns, artillery, Now the next one we get is quite a unique one. It's a Cyclops demolition vehicle. This is essentially like the old Goliath demolition vehicles from World War II that the Germans had, which is essentially the remote control suicide bombs, like the little robots that you remote control into the enemy and then just blow them up. They're just packed full of explosives. So they're really cool, these little things. So you can buy them in vehicle squadrons, which is good. So you can buy them, I believe, in groups of 3, which is nice. And they've got a movement of 10 inches. Weapon skill 6+, ballistic skill 4+, strength 4, toughness 6, 4 wounds, 1 attack, leadership 7, 3+ save. And they come with some unique rules. A Cyclops demolition charge. At the start of any of this model's shooting phase, so long as it is not advanced, it may choose to detonate its Cyclops demolition charge. When it does so, every unit, both friendly and enemy, within D6 inches is automatically hit by this weapon using the profile stated above. So automatic hits, that's very important. Roll separately for each unit. Once this model has detonated its Cyclops demolition charge, remove it from play. Any Cyclops demolition vehicle that is removed from play in this way does not reward victory points in scenarios that offer victory points for slaying enemy units, so they don't give away kill points. Now, the demolition charge itself is heavy 2d6, strength 9, AP -2, d3 damage. That is pretty good. So you blow it up, and you roll 2d6 for each unit. Now that is both a blessing and a curse. It's a double-edged sword. So the thing is that if you only got to roll the 2d6 once, you could get double 1, and that's it. You're stuck with that, and every unit just takes 2 of these hits. But by rolling 2d6 for each unit, what that means is that you can get, if you screw up a roll against one unit, it means you've got a likelihood of getting a better roll the next time. So, but also if you get a good roll the first time, you might get a bad roll the second time. So swings and roundabouts. The big thing about the Cyclops is that if the model is reduced to 0 wounds, it explodes on a 3+, and each unit within 6 inches suffers D3 mortal wounds. So the big thing is that with these things is that they they are risky, because if your enemy can target them, they've only got 4 wounds each. They're only toughness 6, and they blow up on a 3+, which I think is in the guard is even worse than Hellhounds. That is a very easy explode. So, and they are good. They're a bit of a meme unit. To be honest, they're very cool. They're a bit of a meme unit. I'm not sure how useful they are, but at the end of the day, they're only 60 points. So for the price of a Sentinel and a bit, you get a decent unit. But I would say they're not competitive. I would say they're a bit of a meme unit. The only advantage they have is they automatically hit, so you could use them to sort of play counter meta against Possessed Bomb, but I think Possessed Bomb pretty much has died thanks to Grey Knights. Next one, Deathcore Heavy Weapons Squad. So this is just like a regular heavy weapons squad, except for it has the Calls of Sacrifice, and weirdly, it's cheaper Deathcore heavy weapon squads never got uppointed. So there's still only 5 points per team, so only 15 points per heavy weapon squad, and then you've got to add your weapons on top of that. So that's good. Apart from that, they can take all the usual weapons. Deathcore Leman Russ Mars Alpha pattern. So this is the Deathcore's unique Leman Russ vehicle, and for all intents and purposes, it is like a normal Leman Russ. It has the strength 7, the toughness 8, the 12 wounds, the 10-inch movement. If you start degrading it, the movement starts going down. It's got a 3+ save, comes with a battle cannon, heavy bolter. So where the unique things come in, where the uniqueness comes in, is you can give the Mars Alpha pattern any main battle weapon, a main turret weapon you want. That's the main thing about it. So you can take it as an annihilator, a battle tank, or a conqueror, or demolisher, or an eradicator, executioner, exterminator, punisher, vanquisher. You can make them conquerors and annihilators, which is the big deal here. And they're they're not too badly priced. I mean, they're 137, but that is with your battle cannon. So if you take the battle cannon off, they're 115, and with the heavy bolter, so they're 107. So they're the same cost as a normal Leman Russ. So bear that in mind. It's the same cost as a normal Leman Russ, but it comes with some nifty rules. Like I said, you can make it a conqueror, so it's a cheaper conqueror than the actual conqueror itself. And it comes with the Mars Alpha hull. And this is the only really unique thing about it. Outside of the fact you can put conquer weapons on it, is the fact that the Mars Alpha hull, this vehicle sees +1 to its armor save rolls against weapons of strength 4 or less. So bolter fire, all those marines, all those new fancy Primaris stuff, the Mars Alpha is getting an extra save against that. Now that is really, really powerful. Doesn't get that against heavy weapons, but makes these things basically have a 2+ save against all small arms in the game. That is significant. That's not to be overlooked. If you're playing Deathcore, and it is a unique Deathcore vehicle, you can't take it as a normal guard regiment. If you're playing Deathcore, you might as well take the Mars Alpha pattern battle tank. Now, if you buy the Mars Alpha pattern battle tank from Forge World, it will cost you an arm and a leg. Okay, a good alternative to check out is Cromlech Wargames. They sell the bits to put the trench rails on the back of your regular Russes. So I will probably I'm planning to do a video showcasing their units anyway. But that is something to be aware of. You get a Leman Russ from a third-party seller, get 25% off it. Someone like Triple Helix or Dark Sphere, whichever your preferred one is, and then you save the points, you save the money, sorry, and you're able to then spend that money and get the upgrade bit from Cromlech, and you've got yourself basically a Forge World proper tank. And Cromlech also sell individual turrets for Leman Russes as well for like £10. So that's really, really good. So that's how you get your hands on one of these Mars Alpha pattern thingies. Now, moving on then, we're starting to get into the territory of the static artillery. Now, the first one is the Earthshaker carriage battery, and there's no point in ever taking this vehicle, because it has all the same advantages of a basilisk, but costs more. So it has basically, it's a static Earthshaker cannon, which is the same weapon that the regular basilisk comes with, but has less wounds and less save and can't move, and that's it. But it costs more. So it costs, 15 points more? It costs 15 points more than a basilisk, but is worse in every way. Don't bother with it. honestly, unless something changes in the Forge World book, the new one that's coming out, God knows when, don't bother with it. The next one is the heavy mortar battery and the Griffin mortar carrier. We'll do these at the same time. So the Griffin mortar and the heavy mortar are essentially the same thing. They both fire a heavy mortar shell, which is strength 6, AP -1, D6 damage, 48-inch range, D6 shot. So 48-inch range, D6 shots, strength 6, AP -1, D3 damage. They both do the same thing. However, the heavy mortar battery is slightly cheaper than the Griffin. So it's 72 points for the heavy mortar, 85 for the Griffin. But the Griffin comes with a number of advantages. It has more wounds. It has, I believe, a better save as well. Yeah, so more wounds, better save. And also comes with the special ability that the basilisk has. So you pick 2d6 for the number of shots and discard the lowest, which the regular heavy mortar doesn't. So for 13 points more, if you're deciding between taking heavy mortar and taking a Griffin, the Griffin's got better movement, it's got better save, better wounds, and better reliable number of shots. You might as well go for the Griffin. And this is the thing with all these static artillery pieces. You come across, it's the same thing every time. Now, the next static artillery piece we have is the heavy quad launcher, also known as the Thud Gun. Absolute iconic unit of the Krieg, and it is pretty good. It is pretty good, but it's quite expensive for what it does. So its strength, it's toughness 7. Wounds 6, 4+ save. The same stats that we've seen with all the other artillery pieces. You can buy them in squadrons, and they come with the heavy quad launcher, which is 48-inch range, so that's good. Heavy 4d6, strength 5. No AP, 1 damage, can target units outside of a line of sight. Now, you get all that for 97 points. Now, the thing is, you wouldn't normally want to take one of these things if you were Krieg. You wouldn't normally want to take them. But Krieg does not get access to the Wyvern, which is the natural competitor to this thing. So if you want to take a Wyvern-like unit, this is your best bet. And it is only 97 points. And it is improved over its previous iteration in like 7th, because back in 7th you could only fire them like every other turn. Now you can fire them every single turn. Now, I know a lot of you will be saying, well, it's a real shame that all these self-propelled artillery pieces, the regular ones, are better than these cool, unique Krieg ones. And in many ways they are, especially the Earthshaker carriage. Normally you can shave off a few points by taking the taking the static one. So, for example, I know Death Korp of Krieg can't take it, but in a regular army, the Wyvern does cost significantly more than a quad launcher, and the heavy mortar is cheaper than a Griffin. So you are still saving, like, if you took 3 heavy mortars, you're saving 39 points. That's basically an infantry squad. So, it is worth considering. The big thing that these artillery pieces that are self-propelled have over that are static have over the gun carriages, have over the self-propelled ones, is they generally speaking have a much lower profile and also a much smaller unit footprint, which means you can hide them. Consider ITC. Consider how much line of sight blocking terrain is now present in ITC, and consider that your regular basilisk would not be able to hide, but you probably could get away with hiding your quad mortars and your heavy mortars. That is the big advantage of taking the smaller gun batteries. Now, moving on, we have the Hydra. Everyone knows and loves the Hydra. It's 93 points. It's 4 big old auto cannons. It fires, I'm not going to go into it too much. The Hydra is essentially an anti-air unit. It is like the basilisk, strength 6, toughness 6. It's open top, so it's toughness 6 basically. 11 wounds, 3 plus save. It comes with the Hydra quad auto cannon, 72-inch range, heavy 8, strength 7, 8 -1, 2 damage. Add 1 to hit rolls made against targets with the fly keyword. Subtract 1 from units against all the targets. So I'm not going to go too much into the Hydra here because I've covered it before in my other videos, and it's a generic guide unit. It's not unique to the Krieg. Hydras are good. Hydras, generally speaking, are quite a good choice, and they're relatively cheap. The only thing to think about though is, you can get, for the same price as a Hydra, you can get a heavy quad launcher, and so, but they are two very different units. But Hydras are good. They are, but the only issue is they are kind of specialised for dealing with flying targets. If you're not facing any flying targets, then they're not that useful. Now, and it's a generic guide unit. We don't need to spend too much time on it. So now we get into some of the really interesting heavy support units, and we are looking. Oh wait, actually, before we move on, we've got the Medusa. So before we had the Armageddon pattern Medusa, the last static artillery piece we have is the Medusa carrier. It's 116 points versus the Armageddon pattern 123. So for 7 points less, so you're only saving 7 points, and you're losing 5 wounds. The advantage of the Medusa, the static Medusa, of the carriage, is it has 2 different kind of shells it can fire. So you have the Medusa siege gun breach shells, which are heavy D6, strength 10, 8 -3, D3 damage when attacking a building, increase the weapon's damage to D6. And you have the Medusa siege gun standard siege shells, which is heavy D6, strength 10, 8 -3, D3 damage, but it has a longer range. It's, apart from that, you get one. It's got one type of shell which is slightly better at killing buildings, but no one takes buildings in 8th. So you're probably better off with taking the Armageddon pattern. Now, now we get onto this. Now we've done that, we'll get onto the really interesting heavy support choices for the Krieg, which is the Malkador family of tanks. So the Malkador family of tanks is like an old, outdated version, really out of date Leman Russ. Essentially, it's like a big Leman Russ. It's like a World War I tank that someone's copied into 40k. Let's not beat around the bush. It's an old, old Mark IV that the British used to use. It's a really old tank, and they've basically been ported into 40k. Now the thing with these vehicles is they're like it's like they wish they were super heavies, but they're not quite super heavies. Okay, so they're expensive, and they are, well, make your mind up for yourself. They are expensive though. So all Malkadors pretty much have the same basic stats. They've got ballistic skill 4+, and they have weapon skill 6+. They've got a movement of, sort of find it now. They've got a movement of 10 inches, and they have got strength 7, toughness 8, 3+ save. But the big thing is they have 18 wounds. Wow, that is a big deal. That is a big deal. However, when they explode, and they do so on a 6+, every unit within 2d6 suffers D3 mortal wounds. So it's kind of like, look, they've got they've got half as many wounds again as the Leman Russ, but they do potentially have a much worse explode. But at the end of the day, it's still only D3 more wounds, so it's not like a super heavy exploding. So they are an interesting bunch of vehicles. Now, there's a whole load of different ones you can choose. The first one is the Malkador Annihilator. It comes with the special rule Lumbering Advanced. This model does not suffer the penalty to a turret weapon hit rolls for shooting a heavy weapon on a turn which it has moved. The following weapons are turret weapons. 1 minute. Conquer battle cannon, eradicate nova cannon, exterminator cannon, vanquish battle cannon, demolisher cannon. So this thing comes with a demolisher cannon, twin las cannon as well, and coaxial heavy stubber. So this thing comes with a demolisher cannon, a heavy stubber, and two heavy stubbers and twin las cannon. It has the ability to swap out that demolisher cannon for a las cannon or an auto cannon. Has the ability to swap out the 2 heavy stubbers for 2 auto cannons or 2 more las cannons. You can take a pintle mount on it of a heavy stubber or stormbolt, and you can take a hunter killer missile. So this thing, you know, if it was up to me, I'd probably swap the demolisher cannon out for another las cannon, and then for the sponsons, I'd probably go all in and go for like 2 more las cannons potentially, and just make this thing an absolute monster of a las cannon. Just like it's an 18 wound toughness 8 las cannon, just battery. That is going to get expensive quickly though. The default loadout is a 2 heavy stubbers demolisher cannon and twin las cannon, and in that loadout it does have the ability to take on pretty much anything. You know, a cheap option for this thing would be to just go full, to just take as many auto cannons as possible. You know, swap the demolisher cannon out for an auto cannon, swap the 2 heavy stubbers out for 2 auto cannons. That is 10 points more expensive, but then what you've got is a vehicle which has got 2 las cannon shots a turn and 6 auto cannon shots a turn, which makes it quite a good bunker unit. Now the next one is the Malkador Defender. Now this is actually everyone's favourite because it's cheap and funny. So this thing, one day a tech priest woke up and went, you know, the Malkador, I just don't think it has enough bullets. And the tech priests were like, yeah, all right, yeah, let's see how it goes. So this one comes with 2 heavy bolter sponsons, and then it has a weird little nubby turret on top, like a little bunker. And that comes with 5 heavy bolters. So this thing gets a lot of heavy bolters. And it has the lumbering advance rule as well. And it also comes with a demolisher cannon in the front. Now it also comes with, so it's like the Malkador Annihilator, except for instead of las cannons, it's just got a shitload of heavy bolters. It's got 7 heavy bolters, and you can add a heavy stubber on there as well. So you know it's got, and it comes with a demolisher cannon. So it's got 7 heavy bolters for anti-infantry. The demolisher cannon is going to tear a chunk out of anything, and having a heavy stubber on it as well just makes it funny. Now the thing with this little cheeky chappy is it comes with another special rule called Defender Protocols. Add 1 to hit rolls for the model when firing Overwatch. So you hit on a 5+ when firing Overwatch. Very interesting. But then you go, oh, but what if I was Mordian? Oh, that's interesting. Because if you're Mordian, then you get another +1 to hit. So you're hitting on 4s in Overwatch. And then you go, what if I'm a Mordian Malkador Defender with defensive gunners? Yeah, that's right. Your Malkador Defender hits on 3s in Overwatch. It hits better in Overwatch than it does in shooting. Now, obviously, we're not talking about Mordians here today. We're talking about Korp Of Krieg. And the great thing, and we'll cover the other 2 Malkadors in a moment, the heavy tank and the Infernus. But the great thing about the Malkador, honestly, let's make sure we're talking about this from a Krieg perspective. The great thing about the Malkador is that it is such an iconic Krieg unit. I mean, it's so Krieg. It's World War One through and through. And the thing is that they're not as good as Leman Russes. They're expensive. You know, a Malkador Defender will set you back 276 points. Malkador Annihilator, 264. Malkador Heavy Tank, only 228. But the Malkador Infernus, 316. So, they're expensive. They're more expensive than Leman Russ. They only really get extra wounds over a Leman Russ. You know, they're not as good as Leman Russ. Now, weirdly, I don't know if this is a mistake, but Battle Scribe is telling me that they don't degrade. But they must do. No, they must do. It has 10 to 18 wounds. Yeah, no, they degrade after they lose 8 wounds. They must do. It just hasn't got the information on there. Because that would have been awesome. They didn't degrade. I'd say those things are worth every penny. Now, from a Krieg point of view, there's, you know, you always going to want a lot of infantry. You're always going to want like 100 infantry at least, 120 infantry. But after that, you can sort of choose. If you go for the World War One theme, do you want to go early war World War One and go for all that artillery? Or do you want to play late war World War One with your Krieg boys and be like, less artillery, more big tanks, please? See? So, the great thing about the Malkador is, whilst it's probably not as point efficient, it is tough as old boots, and also really allows you to scratch that World War One itch. I mean, if you were collecting Krieg, not necessarily playing to be competitive, you're really going to want to have like 2 of these things in your list. And you want a couple of land ships to roll out across no man's land. You know, that's why you take these things. That's why you take them. And you know, things like the Malkador Defender do genuinely have some tactical application. Now, moving on to the next 2, the Malkador Heavy Tank is the cheapest of them all at 228 points. It comes with 2 heavy stubbers, a battle cannon, and a heavy bolter. So it is also the least well armed. It doesn't come with the lumbering rule, so if you move, it is going to hit worse. It comes with the battle cannon and the 2 heavy stubbers and heavy bolter, and you can change it. Let's have a look what weapon options we've got. So you can swap the 2 heavy stubbers out for either 2 autocannons or 2 lads cannons, pretty standard. And you can swap the whole heavy bolter out for either an autocannon or a lads cannon, so pretty standard. It can take a heavy stubber storm bolter. It can take a hunter killer missile. It's okay, but it's not quirky enough. In a weird sort of way, what else it's really cheap is, you know, far cheaper than the other ones. It's not really quirky enough, and it doesn't bring a lot more firepower. Pardon me. It doesn't bring a lot more firepower than a regular Leman Russ. I mean, it's got a battle cannon like a regular Russ. It's got, you know, you could upgrade to 3 heavy bolts like a regular Leman Russ, but then it doesn't bring anything. It doesn't bring any more firepower than a regular Leman Russ, and is only half as tough as one with those extra wounds. You know, it's a tricky one. Now the last one is a bit of a meme unit. It's the Malkador Infernus, because the 2 heavy stubbers and the Inferno gun with flammable fuel. Now you can choose whether you want flammable fuel or if you want chemical fuel. And we will go through the differences now. So it has all the usual stats for Malkador. It's got the 18 wounds. It's got the big difference here is it's got a big old explosion. So this thing explodes on a 4+. And if it does, all units in 2d6 suffer d6 more wounds. So when it goes kaboom. Flammable fuel, it's got a 16-inch range, it's heavy 2d6, strength 7, AP -2, 2 damage, weapon automatically hits target. So, it is the nastiest flame weapon that the guard can get. Now, bear that in mind, it is the nastiest flame weapon. It's got the same range as a Hellhound, but it's got better strength, it's got better AP, it's got better damage. It's actually a really, really nice unit. It is a really nice unit. Now, that's with the flammable fuel. Let's take a look at this bad boy with the chemical fuel. Let's see if that's much better. So, The chemical fuel always wounds. It's heavy 2D. It's 16-inch range. Heavy 2d6. Always wounds on a 2+, unless it's a vehicle that wounds on a 6+. Strength, AP man's 3, damage 1. Still has Titanic explosion. It's okay. It's like what the Bane Wolf wish it could be, with that 16-inch and 2d6 shots. I would probably stick with the flammable fuel. It's much more take all comers and does more damage. So at a pinch, you can flame vehicles out the sky with it. I'd go with the flammable fuel, not the chemical fuel. You can, like the others, you can swap out its weapons. It's 2 heavy stubbers for 2 autocannons, 2 heavy bolters, 2 light cannons, and also weirdly 2 heavy flamers. So if you want to go all full flamer disco inferno with this thing, you can. Pintle mount, heavy stubber, storm bolter. Okay. Now we're getting on to the last few here. Last few. We've got 3 more to go through. We've got the Rapier Laser Destroyer, the Styges Destroyer Tank Hunter, and the Styges Thunderer Siege Tank. So the Rapier Laser Destroyer. It is kind of like it's like one of those static artillery pieces again, except for it's more of a pack gun, like a big anti-tank gun. So the Laser Destroyer comes with toughness 5, so it's not as tough as other artillery pieces. It only has 3 wounds. It comes with a guardsman crew. It can't move after it's been deployed. All the usual. And it comes with a single laser destroyer. 36-inch range, heavy 1, strength 12, 8+4, d6 damage. If this weapon successfully inflicts damage, roll an additional d6 on a result of a 3 to 5. The weapon's damage is increased to 2d6. On a result of a 6, the weapon's damage increased to 3d6. So that's pretty good. That is pretty good. Don't get me wrong. Heavy 12 means you're going to be wounding anything you want. But the even as 4 means unless I've got inruns, they're in trouble. And the ability to just do quite easily to do 2d6 damage. Wow. Or 3d6 damage in a pinch. It will take chunks out of things. Now that sounds incredible, doesn't it? Absolutely incredible. The problem with the Rapier is it's expensive. It's 88 points for 1. Wow. Guards nearly hit on 4s. That's depressing. It has the potential to be really powerful, but it's not powerful. I'd almost wish it lost its gimmicky special rule and instead had a neutral laser special rule, and then it was much, much cheaper. As it is, unfortunately, it's not durable enough and it's too expensive points-wise, no matter how good its gun is. Now the next one, we have the Styges Destroyer Tank Hunter. Absolutely fantastic model. This is basically like it's like a Stug, really, isn't it? Like an old Stug. So if you want to get that World War II German feel, start thinking about these guys. It does have 13 wounds. It is toughness 8. Has all the usual vehicle stats, 3+ save, 10-inch movement, 4+ ballistic skill, degrades down on the usual levels. It comes with a very interesting weapon, the Heavy Laser Destroyer Rave. 60-inch range. Very respectable. Heavy D3, so, that's pretty good. Strength 9, 8-3, D6 damage. So, it does have a fairly good gun, and you combine that with the special rule Tank Hunter. If this model attacks a vehicle with its Heavy Laser Destroyer, roll 2 dice when rolling the damage and discard the lowest result. So, it is good at, doing lots of damage and wounding and cutting through armor, but the problem is that it's only D3 shots, and relying on guardsman ballistic skill, and it's 160 points, and it's not as good as Leman Russ. So, yeah, it's an okay unit. Don't get me wrong. It's just a little expensive, points-wise. And the last one to talk about is the Styges Thunderer Siege Tank. Okay, now this one has the lumbering advance, so it doesn't suffer the penalty for moving and shooting with its demolisher cannon. It comes with a demolisher cannon, and that's it. You can put a pintle mount, stormbolter on it, or heavy stubber. Okay, take a hunter killer missile. The big thing with it, again, is it's got those 13 wounds. It just comes with the regular old demolisher cannon, though. Yeah, that's pretty shit. That's really shit. Unless I'm missing something. It's 180 points for a demolisher cannon, no trimmings. That's too expensive. It's far, far too expensive. So, there we go, guys. That's all of the Krieg heavy support options covered. Now, I mentioned this before, but I mentioned it again, and I've touched upon it in other videos. But the Krieg heavy weapon options, most of the time you're better going off with their regular Imperial Guard counterparts. You know, why don't bother taking Earthshaker carriages, take normal basilisks. You know, don't, you know, for a small price increase you can get the Griffin Heavy Mortar, it's significantly better. Malkadors are cool, but they're not quite as super heavy, but you're paying almost super heavy prices for them. So the Krieg heavy support section is full of beautiful, interesting, quirky options. The problem, you know, being, you know, real talk, guys, the problem is that they really do struggle to stand up to just their regular good old-fashioned guard counterparts. Now, they have plenty of good rules, but they're generally overcosted. Or they cost the same as a regular guard thing, but don't come with the special rules. So they're not quite there. Now, this may all change with the advent of this mythical new Forge World book. And my advice would be, if you're watching this video, my advice would be is that there's a reason that I have gone through the stats for each one of these units. And there's a reason why I have focused primarily on the stats and not the points cost. Because, now this may be wrong, but I imagine when Forge World releases the new updated book, weapon statistics like strength and damage and AP will remain the same or similar, but points cost will be, you know, will be changed. And so even if the points cost do change, if you watch this video, you'll still have a very good idea of how to sort of fit these units into your list from a tactical and strategic point. So there you go, guys. Now the big thing with the Krieg heavy support section is it's almost like a microcosm for the Krieg, current state of the Krieg in general, which is that really cool, fluffy and flavoursome options abound, but just not points efficient. And that is the general problem with the Krieg as a whole. That is the general issue with the Krieg units. Now, they don't, apart from the Miles Alpha pattern hull and a couple of other units, they don't really have many unique units in there, the Krieg. A lot of those choices can be taken by regular guard forces. My advice would be, if you're building a Krieg list competitively, fair enough to you, you want to do it competitively, my advice would be on the heavy support section would be really just to focus on the Leman Russ Mars Alpha pattern tank. It is the same points cost as a regular Leman Russ. You can put the Conqueror cannon on it, which is the best weapon option that you can get, and it comes with added resistance to all those marine bolters. And marines are the hotness right now. Yeah, you're going to be more resistant to the Stalker bolters that marines love in the Devastator Doctrine turn 1. And then when this tactical doctrine, you're still going to be resistant to all the regular bolters that they're spamming. Yeah. I think if I was to play a balanced tactical take all comers Krieg list, I'd build myself in a nice base of like 120 infantry, and then I would focus on tank commanders, and I would focus on Mars Alpha pattern hulls. That's how I would do it. And so you've got a solid core of infantry that's never going to run away, that can engage in long range firefights with the unique Krieg order to make them shoot 2 shots at long range, and use your more durable Leman Russes to tank lots more small arms and shots in general for your men. That's how I would run it. That's how I would run a competitive Krieg army. Spam infantry, spam Leman Russ Mars Alpha pattern tanks. That's how I would do it. But you guys, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Is there anything that I have missed? You know, I am learning the Krieg, and I have some really exciting news to be announced about the Krieg, which I'll do in another video. And I'm doing my best to, you know, do these tactics videos with at least some form of battlefield experience, and you know, not just doing it all theory hammer. But you know, I'm not a Krieg expert, so my advice would be, if you think that I have missed something out about a unit, please go down to the comment section below. There are lots of very, very passionate Krieg commanders out there who will be putting loads and loads of great information down in the comment section. And if you have any questions in general, put them down there. Either myself will get back to you, or like I said, there's a very passionate Krieg community which has been following these videos, and I'm sure that they will get back to you as well. So guys, thank you for listening. Exciting times. We're coming to the end of the Krieg Tactics series now. There's only one more video to do, and that is the super heavies. Okay, so that'll be a good one. Now, one last thing to mention. There may be some other super heavy guard units out there. Not super heavy guard units. Heavy support units out there, which the regular guard have access to. I have gone over all the ones that the Death Korp of Krieg have access to. They do have a limited roster, guys. So if you think that I have missed some heavy support units out, and you think, I don't get it, my regular guard forces can get access to, you know, like the Minotaur or whatever, they probably can do, and it's probably the fact that Krieg have a limited roster. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. If I've missed anything, please let me know. And of course, I will see you guys next time.